Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of Creator Craft. This is the show that digs in behind your creator business, the nuts and bolts it takes to run everything that you do to create on a weekly basis. I'm Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com, joined by Jacob, as always. How are you getting on, Jacob?
Hi, Colin. I'm good. Good to have you back.
Yeah, I was just saying I feel a bit rusty. Not recorded in well, actually, that's not true. I recorded with Matthew yesterday, and I was equally rusty there. Just getting back into it.
It doesn't take long, though, does it?
No, it doesn't. But it was good. Nice wee break. Did a bit of content creation while we're away, actually, so it was quite nice. But yeah, good to get back into it now.
Cool. Yeah, looking forward to hearing a little bit about some of that vacationing content.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It'd be good to. I can cover a wee bit of that actually. We've got I can dig in a wee bit into some feedback on. Remember, I mentioned the gimbal that I bought, the DJI gimbal I bought a few weeks back. That was the last episode we recorded, I think, and that was supposed to help me record some good content while we're away, and also the DJI Mic Minis too. So I can give you a wee update on how I found them actually out in the field recording a bunch of stuff.
Cool.
And also I played around a fair bit with some social media scheduling tools just to try and figure out really how to easily record stuff on the go whenever I could and have it then slowly drip out to a range of accounts while I was away. So I've got a bit of feedback on that too, which I think might be interesting to our wonderful audience out there. What about yourself? What you got for today?
Yeah, well, I wanted to chat about the last episode we made, which was a clone of me, and I wanted to talk about, well, we've not actually spoken about it, Colin, so I wanted to get your thoughts on that episode, and maybe just chat through a little bit around the process, because it was quite an interesting, fun process to follow. I think it's quite a good case study of like just exactly how ingrained AI can become in our content workflows. It's a very extreme example, but it's worth talking through.
Yeah. I'd love to get some feedback on that from the listeners as well, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
So, let's put in, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to a wee contact form, a little survey, because I'd love to get some feedback on that, because I listened to it. We can talk it through, that'd be good. But actually, more importantly, let's find out what our wonderful listeners out there thought of it, that AI-powered episode. So go to the show notes. You'll see a link in there which will take you straight to a form that'll just be one form, one page. Just type in a few comments, like just what you thought of that episode last week, and what you think of AI kind of powered content like that going forward too. So I'd love to see that. Please do go and check out that link. That'll be in the show notes. Just hit the details or the show notes button right there in your listening app. Yep. All right, should we jump into yours first? Let's do that first, Jacob. Then I'll get into my travel stuff after that.
Okay, cool.
So, so I listened to it just yesterday, actually. And it was equally a surprise to me, the start of it, when you, about 2 or 3 minutes in? Well, it wasn't even that long, actually. It was maybe 30 seconds or a minute in, you admitted that it was an AI voice, because it just sounded like you. So,
That's wild.
It was pretty accurate to start with. What do you want to jump into first? Like, just around maybe even just making the voice in the first place?
Yeah. I mean, but what did you think of that as a piece of content? Because it's a weird bit of content, right? Because it's a showcase, but at the same time, actually trying to tell a story. Did you find that listenable? That's what I want to know.
So there was a few things to it, and I think it's probably not, I'm not a good person to ask, because I know you, I know the content, I know what you are getting at, all that kind of stuff. So it's probably less so first of all, I thought it was really well made. I thought the voices came across really well, even the not Jacob. There was a few imperfections, that kind of stuff, knowing you well. I thought yours was better than the other voice, actually.
Way better, and I think I know why that is. It's because I fed that voice to clone it was about 2 hours of me talking on podcasts. So it's actually it's learning from my podcasting voice, how I talk in a podcast, the weird little intonations and pauses that I do, the little teeth inhales that I do sometimes when on and what I was careful to give it half just my audio track from episodes that we've done together, and I actually gave it half solo episodes, because I talk differently on solo episodes, totally different cadence. So it all came together to be quite uncanny valley. But I think if you tried to use that same voice to just answer a phone, it would be really weird. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a really specialised almost voice clone. Whereas I think the one that I picked from their library, that was general purpose. It was just meant to be a decent voice for lots of things. There's many voices in there, but maybe there were better ones. I actually chose that one because I thought this sounds like AI, and I thought I'm a little bit creeped out by my voice. I don't want them both to actually sound like.
I don't think we've even mentioned. Did we mention it was 11 Labs used for this?
It was 11 Labs. That's right. Yeah.
So essentially 11 Labs, a tool that helps you create AI generated voices. You can input just a general script. You can use their robot voices. So they've got a range of voices that you can just type some text in or upload a full script, and then you can have that script read out by their voices. All like really good quality in general, but equally you can train your own voice in there as well. So like Jacob just said there, he's uploaded 2 hours worth of his own stuff, and then 11 Labs has generated a fake Jacob, and that's what it came into.
There's some things to know about that process though, before you jump in. So some things I had to learn as I was doing it. Firstly, I was actually planning on using your voice. I thought that would be cool. You've got a bit more of a recognisable voice than me. And I actually asked you in Slack a couple of weeks ago, didn't I?
Yeah.
So that was my intention doing it, but there's a neat little bit of security in there. You cannot clone a voice without verification. So I would have had to have asked you to basically come to my laptop and read out these words on the screen, and that's how you verify it. So that is a good thing. You can't just clone anyone's voice to that degree. That's a really good bit of safety there. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't make a lesser clone and then try and fake the verification. You know what I mean? But it's a nice thought anyway. That was that was something.
It's at least a nod towards that security. I mean, I'm sure there's like dozens of ways to get around that, but
I'm sure. For sure. Exactly. The other thing is you can't make, this is called a professional voice clone, I think they call it. You cannot do that on the free plan, so I had to upgrade us to the £11 a month plan, and that gives you a certain amount of credits. It gives you access to that feature. Don't know if we'll keep it. It was really just for this experiment. But that's one thing to know. You can't do it on the free plan. And the other thing is, if you're planning on doing this in a hurry, like I was, it takes 5 hours approximately for it to make the clone. And that might have been because I gave it the maximum amount of audio that I could, because you know, having the podcast, it was pretty easy to do so. So I did. I just gave it the full thing. It asked for 2 hours. I gave it 2 hours. Maybe it was slightly above. And I did crunch that for about 5 hours, and then I came back to it. But the result was pretty cool.
It was great. It was we'll come into whether the results, as in the content, the concept, the morals, all that kind of stuff's great. We can have a wee chat about that. But the quality of that voice was excellent. I wouldn't have known, I don't think. I think it sounded like I know what your voice is like. I've talked to you for many hours. But everyone sounds different when they're reading a script, and that was that was the thing. Like you produced that episode like a documentary scripted type episode, and therefore you were always going to sound a bit different anyway. And that voice completely served that purpose. Whether it would, so the conversational side is the other question, isn't it? Like whether it could, if we both cloned our own voices and then actually put in a script which was a back and forth to sound conversational, almost certainly that wouldn't sound like this.
No.
So it's quite you mentioned this earlier though, didn't you? It's like for a very particular context, actually, it was very accurate. Was that the kind of feedback you got, or the thoughts you had?
Yeah, that's the feeling that I have, I'd be really interested to see what if we made a second version of it that is only based on co-hosted episodes. But what if we actually took your tracks and my tracks, and then maybe used a few real episode scripts to try and script out an episode that might have actually been one that we made using voice or actual voices from the co-hosted. That'd
be interesting actually, because that's it. Because like even when you write a script, you don't write like you speak anyway. So that's part of why you sound different when you read a script, is because it's not normal speech. So just getting it to read out a transcript, that'd be pretty interesting actually. Okay, cool. Do you want to dig into the workflow then? Like, we don't need to go into too much detail, but like, how did you go through it step by step?
I'll give you the top lines. Because it was quite an interesting. I mean, it's just super using all of the AI available to me to get this done efficiently and quickly, and still kind of make it as cool in the ways that I wanted it to be cool, and interesting in the ways that I wanted it to be interesting. So it all started with almost the same as all the content that I make at the moment. It started with voice notes. So it started off with like I think it was about an 8-minute voice note that I just recorded into my phone on a walk, explaining. It was a bit of an emotional brain dump. It was just how I felt about the topic and my sort of unique human take on it. You know, if I'm going to hand this over to an AI to script, I don't want it to be the AI's opinion in there. So I started off with that kind of 8-minute brain dump, and then I pretty quickly, once I'd figured out, you know, just through doing that act of speaking it out, I figured out, right, actually I've got a good idea of what this episode needs to be. I want to tell real stories, but told by a machine. That's the, you know, the narrative, right? That's the kind of cool little device. So I went to deep research and I got stories, real stories, links back, checked them all. Brilliant. So I had a pile of about, you know, 10 different people that were using AI in different ways that had mentioned...
That's deep research from OpenAI.
That's right. Yep. Deep research from
Yep.
OpenAI. So that was really good. That was ongoing. And then it was, you know, into Claude basically to do a few rounds of outlining the plan, drafting the article, drafting the script. But in amongst there, I asked it, right, extract more from me. I asked it to do that, and it gave me a bunch of questions to dig deeper into the topic. So I took those questions, put them on my phone, and I went another walk. And this time it was about 40 minutes.
Okay.
And that was me reflecting on some of the research. That was me reflecting on just kind of digging a little bit more into my thoughts on it. And then that helped kind of shape the whole thing. Not just be, you know, something AI generated, but actually. It's my input, it's my take that's on it, but at the same time we're telling other people's stories and we're just talking about the topic kind of, I guess, as factually as we can. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's the standard, we've talked through many times about the workflow that I use in Claude, but it was just a few revisions of that in my custom project, and then drafted an article and then drafting a script. I did the article first because I thought I wanted to get everything structured into a narrative first before jumping right into a script. And then I drafted the script. I spent quite a lot of time tweaking the script because you'll see this in the episode because it's still very much present. I tried to take out some of this, but the script came out very, I don't know, it came out like documentary style with co-hosts. Do you know what I mean? It was two people telling a story rather than conversation. So actually quite a lot of the any back and forth conversation was sort of manually put in by me. Now, on my second time of doing this, I would have saved time elsewhere trying to figure out things, and I would probably invest a little bit of that extra fill-in time into, right, how can I get a better conversational script out of this rather than me doing it manually? But I just felt I'm going to just make some tweaks and move on because I could end up doing this for ages. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the top line, really. And then it was actually really just pasting that into 11 Labs, that tweak script. And then in 11 Labs, the editor is pretty cool. So I had to go through all of it and select which speaker was talking for this bit. So I had to do that manually. I ended up reshuffling bits together and lumping bits together to make it more of a back and forth rather than you see a little bit, I see a little bit, and da-da-da-da-da-da. But you can regenerate portions when the pronunciation isn't right. You can, I didn't actually try it, but there's a feature where you can use your voice to intonate or tell it how to intonate, if that makes sense.
You can coach it up.
Yeah. So they're trying to give you a little bit of fine-grained editing in there, and I did, you know, it's a bit basic, but also it was enough for my purposes. And then made that in 11 Labs, edited it and published it in Alitu, and then made art for the article in Midjourney. So transcripts, OpenAI, Claude, 11 Labs, Alitu's AI tools, Midjourney's AI tools. Yeah, it was a pretty stacked workflow, but it was very fun to work with.
How long do you think? Do you have an estimate of time?
Yeah, I started it on Friday and I didn't finish it until about Saturday afternoon. But that was my
many
tweaking.
Hours.
Yeah, many hours. So but then I don't know, because the second time I went to do this, I know what the workflow is now. The problem is I was trying to plot out the workflow as I was doing it and using new tools, and so I think, like, realistically you could probably get, if you get the script right first time, you could probably get an episode made probably in about 4 hours, which is still way more than it would take for a human. So what I would say is, I don't think there's any real threat to humans if you want like an even passable level of content to be fully generated. Or certainly that's, you know, my workflow right now. Like I say, I think I definitely could have prompted or provided better context to create a more conversational workflow. I could have given it more conversational script, I could have given it actual transcripts from our podcast. I think actually had because Eva's a made-up character, had I've actually given it you and me as characters and given it here's real scripts from the real podcast, I think the result would have been different. I think it would have been quicker to get to something that was a passable bit of content.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just that's good and bad to hear. We always want more help. We don't want AI taking over the voicing really in general. But so, I mean, yeah, it makes me like, I wonder, so you're saying essentially that you got to the script point. If you had just read that yourself, it probably would have been quicker because you wouldn't have had to do the review, the new intonations, the coaching up on the little foibles, all that kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Part of it's just, I mean, I probably spent too long tweaking it, but I wanted it to be, better than it was. What I will say on 11 Labs' favour is that they do have an actual built-in sort of scripting tool. I think they integrate with something else and pull in their APIs or whatever, and then they will actually take the voices, take the topic. You can upload documents, and it will generate a transcript. And just it sounds brilliant, but I didn't have any control over the content, and the content was not actually reflective of what I want you to do.
What you want to do,
so I didn't use that, but that sounded great first time. And now I think those probably you can choose short, medium, long. I tried the long one because I was aiming for about 25 minutes, and it just seemed to kind of disregard a lot of what I gave it in those documents. Perhaps give it too much context. I didn't try again. But it is possible. There is a workflow there if you're not worried about... If you're just covering one topic, one simple topic, there is a workflow there where you can do that super quickly.
And that would be not your voice, or you could do that with your voice?
Would be my voice. So they... I think the workflow on their side is they're pulling in something to generate a script, and then they are somehow doing a little bit of direction on the voice in there too, because the intonation in it just flowed really, really well. It was a good conversation back and forth. Whereas when I tried to sort of recreate the same thing, but just by editing the script, didn't really get it anywhere near as good. So they're obviously doing a little bit of polishing there to get it right when you're using their sort of episode generation workflow.
So you have to give up some control over the content to get the actual kind of audio output to a really high level. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Like you can potentially do both. You can either have really high quality audio and let them take care of the script because that's what they need to be able to do to generate that high quality audio, or have control and it's not as good. Is that? Sorry, go on.
I was going to say it's weird the little things that I found myself trying to do to steer the intonation though. Like you can bold things, you can capitalize things, you can put the little stars. The problem is that asterisks rather, it picks and chooses when to read out the asterisk. So what I started doing was when I really wanted something intonated, I would just make it bold and or not bold, sorry, like uppercase, and that seemed to work quite well. And I was able to just fine tune. It just sounded too much like a computer, like that's just not how I would read that sentence. So I'm going to make that word there capitalized. And the thing is, when it regenerates that whole paragraph, it takes into account that intonation. So the whole paragraph starts flowing correctly because they've got the intonation on the right word. So it's a weird process. I would recommend just giving it a go because it's quite fun. It's quite weird. It's quite I don't know, a little bit scary too.
Just out of interest, totally. Is that the automated version? Is that similar to the Google LLM one as well, where they can just generate a podcast from a PDF or a doc or whatever?
Yeah, pretty much.
You tried that one, similar process. Cool. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, it's really interesting. And like I said, it's good to know that it's still not super easy just to take somebody's voice and generate something
totally
quite accurate. Although that'll no doubt change. So I mean, just questions in general, what do you think? What kind of popped up for you during this process around that's kind of relevant to us as creators?
The process, so there's a few things. The process of making it made me feel quite strongly that AI is going to continue to be a really powerful tool for creators to go from head to paper. Not actually the voice part, but that part at the beginning where I'm starting with messy voice notes, getting feedback, answering questions with my voice. That whole that was amazing. You know, that was great. Getting to the voice part, it made me realise that not so much for creators, but actually more just for society in general, legitimately, I think that the biggest threat that AI poses today is voice. I think that is actually the biggest threat that we have. Simple things like all of these robocallers, text-based scams. Have you ever heard about the ones that text older folks pretending to be their grandchildren, saying I'm stranded and I need money? What if your granny got a phone call from someone that sounded exactly like you? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm sure there's bad actors trying to work with all of the, different forms of modalities of AI that we have at the moment. But right now, like present day, that one actually feels like the scariest to me, because you don't need, like, video's not there. You've seen some of the weird, like, clone videos. It's really obvious. But see, for just like short little snippets of audio, I could have easily. I asked my dad to listen to the episode, and he didn't know for the first. That's why I added in at the beginning, by the way, this is AI, because he didn't know until it came. So originally that was like 2 minutes in, and he was freaked out. That scared me, because to me it was super obvious, and that's the case for all of all of this stuff with AI. We're in here, we're using it. It's all very obvious to us, but it's not very obvious to wider society what it can do.
Yeah. No, it wasn't obvious to me either. Like I said, I knew you were doing something with AI on that episode, but I didn't know you were going to do the whole thing, like back to front in AI. So I thought maybe this was you just doing a normal intro. Yeah. So yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah, it's terrifying. I've heard of families forward planning and creating passwords, like vocal passwords. So like if you're ever going to do something like that, like if I'm ever in trouble and I really need something, if you're doubtful if it's me, just say ask me this question and I'll give you this answer.
Which is very smart. Actually,
it's smart, but it's terrifying that you have to do that.
Yeah, a little bit terrifying, but also very smart.
Yeah, totally. Aye, yeah. So just need to set up process, I guess. But yeah, that's bad. I mean, in terms of content creators, then, like, I don't know. I think this kind of highlights one thing which I've found many times over the last 10, 15 years, which is if I create a bad recording, I will often spend like 2 hours trying to edit it into shape. Whether it's background noise, whether it's I've just messed up a few things, whatever it is. And almost always I would have been better just re-recording the damn thing from start to finish, even if it was a half hour long. So it's kind of interesting to hear that even with something like an AI generated voice, maybe that's the same kind of thing, as in it'll take you 2 hours to tweak it when it would just take you half an hour to read the thing.
I'll tell you what, though, there's probably a nice interplay of the two. And I've never actually really tried it in a product, the whole overdub feature. But actually, I could see that working, like, given that voice, I could see, if I slip up and I ramble for 2 minutes and I want to make it more succinct, I could see me using my voice to just tidy that up and restate it after the fact in the editing process.
Possibly.
Rather than re-recording. No?
Yeah. But part of the reason I've always been a bit sceptical over that, and I've never really been that bothered about trying to add it into Alitu, even though there's loads of really quite easy ways we could add it in, is nearly every time, if I ever have an edit to make, it's never just like to change a few words. It's always something around the context. It's always something around the audio quality. Like even if it's like you overdub and it doesn't change the background noise or whatever. So if it's audio quality, it doesn't help it. If it's just a few words, then I can just re-record it again as well. And it's not actually that much of an issue. So I don't know. I'm sure there's reasons. There's good ways to use that, but I've never been that fussed about that feature, even though I've had it available to me in many different places. So I don't know. What about the opposite side, the positivity around it? Like what? So you're talking there's one positive use of it is overdub. Yeah. So I mean, it will be useful in some cases. Anything else you see this being actually kind of a big opportunity for us?
Voice in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have not seen any good implementations of voice for things that are fundamentally voice-driven in real life, like coaching.
Yeah.
I've not seen anyone that approach that properly. I've not seen anyone approach RPGs, I've been playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, an RPG game, and it has the most vast dialogue trees. So when you talk to someone, you get to select what you say, and you just go down a tree, and you end up speaking to someone for about 30 minutes, and it's all just recorded by voice actors with very bad accents, and that is one thing I'm very excited about. Very, very excited about is storytelling, actually, for voice. It's two things. It's that kind of like hand-in-hand coaching where you can actually have a sort of supportive conversation, or a journal that talks to you, or just something that basically, what if that process that I made to create that content, what if I could have a back and forth conversation to take care of that whole prep part at the beginning. That excites me. But the other side, it's storytelling. It's art and video games, and it's not really entered into that area right now. I mean, there were some good stories actually in that episode and in the article about how indie game devs are feeling about AI. And I think for a lot of indie game devs, it's proven to be really liberating. They're finding it a lot easier to tell their story and to create their art, because not only can they get some assistance with the coding, but actually they're beginning to be able to get assistance with assets, 3D assets for games. Yeah. And I think that in general, that does apply in general to creators. So the scope of that episode in the stories was quite broad. It wasn't just creators in the usual sense that we talk about on the episode. It was indie game makers, and it was programmers, and it was all these other different types of people that fundamentally try to turn something that's in their idea onto something on paper. And I think there's a very positive story, kind of clouded by legitimate threats, about people being able to create more faithfully what's in their brain and puts it out into the world.
Yeah, that's a nice way to look at it, in that it kind of gets away from the like death and destruction side, which is everyone losing their jobs and AI taking over content and all that kind of stuff. Whereas instead of that, it just means that people can actually create more complex, more interesting, more accurate, like you say, compared to what they actually imagine. I think one of the interesting ones I think about sometimes is is news, and it's the personalization side of things. It's long been touted, the idea of being able to get a podcast where you get a 5-10 minute bulletin which is quite personalised to you. You get just your local news and 2 or 3 topics that it knows you're interested in from a list of like 100 or even 1,000. Like, how many different niche topics could you include? And it's always been very hard, because obviously you'd have to get somebody to record that. But now, obviously, that's far easier. You could get like a 5 or a 10 minute bulletin every morning, which is literally just listed, spoken by AI from an AI collated text script, which actually just totally personalised to your preferences. So I think something like that would be really cool. And I don't think that puts anyone out of a job either, because that just doesn't actually exist.
It doesn't exist at all. Yeah,
it's just a different way of consuming the types of content that I would have to search around for otherwise. So
and I think there's an important thing in that sort of new product, that new way to consume news, cannot exist without the human element in there. And I think that's the acknowledgement that none of this exists, none of the AI exists, none of the data that they use to train, none of the context that they use to generate your response, none of that exists without the human element. And I think that is actually what we're missing from a lot of this conversation. Generally, we're all very afraid about what could the AI do, but we're not really stopping to think about the fact that the AI doesn't do anything without the humans behind it. So in that sense, I'm not worried about runaway AI taking over the economy, because the AI doesn't work without humans. But I think the thing that is scary is the humans using the AI, right?
How we use it. Yeah.
I'm much more afraid of bad actors than all of us losing our jobs.
Yeah.
And that's like individual. I don't mean like big world-changing event. I mean just like your gran getting a call from you, pretending, and I think that so much of our trust is based on being able to trust someone's voice and their face, and that's quite a big change that we've never really had to face before. I don't think,
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Has it changed anything around your kind of outlook on it all just now, having done this?
I'm leaning more into being excited than anything else, to be honest. it's weird because like it's a bit of a journey. I talked a little bit. One of the producer Jacob notes in that episode was that not that long ago, probably about 6 months ago, I had a spell where I was just like overwhelmed, like emotionally overwhelmed by AI, which is weird to say, but just overwhelmed by the advancement, about what just the paradigm shift of what can happen now, what I'm not doing, what I am doing instead. And yeah, I yeah, sorry, bit of a rambly response, but yeah, I you know, it's tough to wrangle with because it makes you question your place and what you should be doing and what is the best use of my time and what does the world mean now. The world means something different.
No, I totally get it. Like, similar over the last couple of years, like especially the effect it's had on our business, like the content that we produce, the fact that written text content is like, it's just changing entirely. There's no question. Traffic views on like blog content's going down. The way people consume audio and video content is changing because of all of this. The way people produce it is changing because of all of this. Is like so much, so fast. And I know every generation, probably every 5 years, there's something where people say this about, but it just feels different somehow. Maybe that's what we say every time. Every time. It feels more fast changing, more impactful, more big. Well, certainly I think this revolution has had a bigger effect on the work I'm doing in my life, certainly, than most of the other ones in the past, at least. So maybe that's what it is,
in the day-to-day,
Yeah, okay, cool. No, it was good. I think it was really cool to listen to, really interesting to hear about the workflow and everything. So I hope that's given everyone a bit of a rundown on what's possible right now, what they could play with, how they might want to use it, maybe how they wouldn't want to use it actually, maybe saying that generally you wouldn't want to mess around with the voice generation side of it right now because it's just not actually very time-saving or anything, so... But I still, it's good to hear about what are you using for those voice notes just now? Is it literally just the voice recorder on your phone?
Yeah, totally. Apple Voice Notes gives you a transcript. So skip the middleman, just get it right from there. I think it actually must run the model for the transcript on your phone because it's near instant. It's pretty good.
It's really accurate?
Way accurate enough for the purposes, For
this, Yeah, cool. Yeah, I actually, one of the things, so jumping over to creating content while I was away, one of the things I did do was very similar in that I think I mentioned VoicePal as an app on an episode just before I headed off. And I ended up just speaking my daily journal into that every single day of what we'd done that day and my thoughts. I tried to capture a bit of the kind of... the other stuff around it, the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings, all that kind of stuff, as well as just simply the actions of what we did, all of that. And I found that such a cool way to do it, particularly because it does that, like you were saying, like you would chuck it back into Claude and get it to ask you questions about it, to expand on it. And like I mentioned that last time we talked about VoicePal, it does that. So you do your first 5-10 minute journal, and then it says, so it looks like you were a bit stressed when you were on that bus on the way to Tokyo. Like, why was that? And I'm like, okay, I'll talk about that for another minute or two. And so it really kind of expands on it. So it was a really cool way to use it actually for that. And I wrote a few blog posts, travel posts for just a kind of hobby site based on that as well. So I took those transcripts and I got them converted into... VoicePal can create a first draft based on those transcripts and all the questions that it asks you, and I turned them into blog posts. And ended up, it's similar in that it did take 20-30 minutes to go through and edit it to get it into, my real voice. But it is pretty good because it's based on, my voice in the first place. Because it's based on voice notes. I mean, is that what you find with it as well? Like, 100%. I think seems to me that's the benefit of kind of leading with audio in that way. Because it is your voice and it
comes out way more natural. You're not editing yourself, Yes,
totally. Yeah, and you can coach it more to actually, not so much with VoicePal, but I've played with this with Claude as well. That you can coach it to take more of the phrases that you actually use in your voice note, can't you? Did you make an effort to get it to do that when you're playing with that?
Not in this round, no. But certainly whenever I'm using AI in writing or editing, yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, sometimes it is quicker just to do it yourself rather than trying to prompt it. But half the time I'm trying to figure out like what are the edges of this, how reliable can you be at picking up my tone. But yeah, certainly, definitely.
Yeah, so it's cool. It was good to experiment with that. And I've got, I'm going to try and like do kind of one a week or so, just in a wee bit of extra time I've got to try and get some more of that stuff out. I've got loads of social media type clips I want to play around with as well. So loads of stuff captured. Do you know, one of the big learnings actually from that 4 weeks away, I had hoped that I would be able to capture a bunch of stuff and publish it as I went along. And it's so hard to do that. I find like
unless you're like really set up before you go. Did you actually have a blog set up and like were you posting it somewhere you already had?
Yeah, that wasn't so much of an issue. It was more just the fact that the capturing is like, I mean, we know this really, but you kind of have to be reminded sometimes. The capturing is only like a quarter of the process, isn't it? The rest of it is like the formatting, the publishing, the finessing, the editing, the photos. Like the blog post, for example, I can capture it and I can get it to write a good first draft. But like I said, it takes 30 minutes to edit. But then also I want to include a bunch of pictures, because what's a travel blog without, photos of the place as well? So then I have to go into my photo library and pick out good ones that matched it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's that. But there's also like just I thought maybe the better or the more easy one would be just Instagram Reels, Instagram Stories, YouTube Shorts, that kind of thing. I've been playing around. I talked about this on an episode months and months ago at least, about a channel around like living the good midlife, like how you travel with family, how you enjoy like good things when time's limited, all that kind of stuff. And I was playing around with some content related to that. But I could capture it. So I could capture some videos of like a really cool little food shop that I found in Japan that did like takoyakis or something, like little octopus pancakes. And I'm like, I want to show this. Like, this is a really cool thing you can do that kids actually really enjoy as well, because you can see them cooking, and it's like, it really suits that type of content I want to create. And I captured it. But then there was like finding the time to actually turn that into a story. Even though that doesn't take that long, you still need to find the time to sit down to think like, okay, there's a clip, maybe I do want to cut it a little bit, I want to have some text on there, and put a little bit of a caption in, that kind of thing. When you're actually on the move and doing stuff, like, that's much easier said than done.
Totally.
So yeah, I found that hard actually. I didn't get out half as much as I wanted to. And there was also, and I don't know how much other creators struggle with this, but like if you run a channel, if you create content around something that is more of a hobby or a passion or whatever, whether it's anything from travel to cooking to board games or whatever, and I found this particularly on a trip with my family, there's a really hard balance between thinking about capturing that content and thinking about appreciating doing it.
Yeah, it's the Instagram thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't have fun unless you take a picture.
yeah, exactly. But then I can't have fun when I'm taking a picture as well. Like if I'm thinking about that, I'm not thinking about the people I'm with. I'm not thinking about the experience. I'm not mindful on like this amazing lake that I'm sailing across on a pirate ship right now, which actually happened weirdly. I'm not appreciating that. Like I'm taking pictures and I'm thinking about how this will look on Instagram afterwards, and I'm thinking about the blog post I'll write about it and all that kind of stuff. And I have no proper answer on that, but I struggled to do as much as I wanted to, because I really wanted to actually just appreciate the trip as well. Because how often did I get to do that? I mean, that's
100%.
like, yeah.
Is it the wrong medium, do you think? Is a travel blog actually a good idea, or is something like an Instagram page much better? Because it is much easier to, snap and go, or take a quick video and go. The fidelity is lower in that sense.
Yeah. Well, so I thought that for sure. I hoped that, but I found it was still just as hard.
As hard, yeah.
Because I still think you have. Certainly when I'm doing it, I don't. If I'm posting something like a reel or whatever, it's not just a snap and go in the end. It's like you've got to put, like I said, you've got to put on you want to put on some text or some effects, or you want to fancy it up a bit. You need to put a little quote in as well in the text part of it. Think about tags, like. You could just snap and go, but it feels almost a little bit pointless, because you're not really doing half of the optimization you should or want to do to make it actually found. Does that make sense?
I think what I mean though by snap and go is you take the picture, you capture the content, perhaps you use your voice to capture the feeling at the time, and then you have a bit of a rhythm where at the end of the day, or depending on like I don't know how long you're traveling, maybe at the end of a few days, end of the week, then you kind of process it all together in one batch. Or are you really trying to do it like as you're there?
I was hoping to. So that was the plan.
Yeah.
I was hoping to do it as I went along because I knew fine that a better approach would be actually to take an hour every day to actually collate stuff and put it together. But again, traveling with the family, I just never found that hour.
No. Too much to ask.
So it's a very different thing if maybe you're a solo person, a solo traveler, you're just moving about by yourself, and you can like really make sure you're spending an hour or two like scheduling that stuff in. But how many? Well, I was going to say how many people are actually in that situation. Maybe there are a lot. I suppose that is actually the case for a lot of influencers, a lot of people doing that kind of work.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the context.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right there. I think most people doing that certainly do not have a family with them while they're doing it, right? They might have their partner with them. That's quite common, right, in travel vlogs. But
we saw a lot of that. That became a meme as well. You know, the boyfriends of Instagram thing.
Yeah.
I told both of the kids about that, and then from then on for the rest of the trip, we were like spotting all of these guys lying on their backs on the pavement, trying to get the perfect angle of their other half, like posing in front of various sites. So yeah.
Fair enough.
There's a lot.
Got to get it for the gram.
There was so much people with like trying to get the perfect shot that they've seen elsewhere, which is one thing I found a little bit strange. Like there was one particular place, that pirate ship on the lake I mentioned was one of the kind of most scenic places, the most famous place we went to. It's called the Hakone Loop, and it's a little bit outside of Tokyo. You can go and get a view of Mount Fuji. You sail across this lake on a pirate ship. You go up a cable car and end up on the top of a volcanic mountain and see like them cooking eggs and like hot springs and all this kind of stuff. It's an amazing place. And there's a famous torii gate, so these big red Japanese gates that you see on a lot of the kind of Japanese media. And there's a famous one on this lake that's floating. It's the floating torii. Have you heard of it? You seen it?
Yeah.
And so everyone is trying to get this picture of them right on the edge of the lake, framed by the torii, with the torii in the background, reflecting on the water. And it's cool. It's an amazing image. But one person did it once, and it went viral. And now there is literally a queue about half a mile long along the side of the lake of people waiting for their turn to do their photo.
It's the Leaning Tower of Pisa thing. That feels like the classic, you know, the shot where you've got to be like,
you've got to push it,
300 meters in front of it, it's nuts. It's been done. It's been done. I guess like I could actually understand it though if it was recreating an image but with you in it, but to just take a picture of the static thing that already exists on a better camera, probably.
It's weird. It's strange. It's kind of like you're creating this content that is completely unoriginal. It's just copying something else just because you've seen it. And I guess that's the point. That's the content creator for their friends, though, isn't it? Yeah. That's like just you creating something for Snapchat. It's like, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's showing off. It's not like a negative thing, but
yeah. The assertion that everyone's a creator now always rubbed me up the wrong way. Because you would hear that sometimes on the news and on the media, you know, talking about, we're all on social media, we're all making content, we're all creators now, you know, is this what our children are all going to do? No, it's not. Because that's not really creating. That is just taking photos for your album, except the album is in a dusty cupboard now. It's on Instagram, you know. Very, very different. Very different. Try harder, people.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway,
cool. Yeah, so that was my experience of it. I think if I learned anything, I think it was that I would absolutely have to deliberately put aside some time every single day, which I didn't sort of plan ahead, so it was tricky to kind of plan that in once we got there. So that was one part, if I wanted to actually do it. And the other is actually just try and, I don't know, I think part of it is collecting and make sure that I have a plan for using it afterwards. So now I am thinking like about using all those clips and how I can start to play around with them over the next month or two and actually start to put them out on a more regular basis. So that could be a way as well, that maybe you don't do it on the move. Maybe that's never actually a good idea. Maybe you want to be mindful and just kind of snap some shots and record some thoughts. And because I found that actually did help me enjoy the experience more, was taking those journals, like talking about it at the end of each day or in the morning after. Like that wasn't taking me away from the experience. That was me reflecting on it, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And I still got loads of photos and videos, which didn't take me away from it that much either. So I think maybe it is something around a post-event.
I wonder if you'd... Because actually, this is more or less what I did. So when I went a trip through Europe and Thailand, I did pretty regular journals. And actually what I was doing is... I was building sort of like a scrapbook for my own purposes that could easily be turned into content if I wanted to. I never actually did that, but you could if you want to. It was basically that. It was a mixture of, in one note... voice notes, some scribbled notes, but also the pictures to do with that. And it was mindfulness of my own travels, and really, enjoying it and thinking about what I'm doing and what I'm going to do next, what I've already done, and all the other things going on in my brain at the same time. I wonder if that is actually a way that you could have done that, because you're already doing the notes. Could you have made that breadcrumb trail for yourself, and then actually when you get back from the trip, because you're very busy, you've got family while you're there, you have a sort of pretty clear-cut little container with, here's all my thoughts from the time, and here's the pictures, and I'll now just recreate it. I'll put it out one a week, and I'll work through it, and I'll get to enjoy it all again myself,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's the way. Yeah, for sure. If you can't make that time when you're away, yeah, definitely. I mean, it probably applies to most types, like even people that just create content around like board gaming and things like that. Like I've been thinking about that a bit as well, like capturing more stuff around just playing games and things, because I'm geeky that way and I enjoy doing it, and it's good fun creating stuff around that, but then it completely interrupts the game at the same time. So yeah, it's something more around how you record it during without interrupting the flow, while still having enough of those breadcrumbs, like you say, to be able to tell a good story afterwards. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, you just record yourself playing the game, and then you what we would do for a podcast, do an intro, do an outro. That'd probably work.
Yep. Yeah, I've thought about recording the conversations during actually and trying to narrate a little bit. Maybe it's a bit weird for the person you're playing with, but if you manage to record that, like both you put on a DJI Mic Mini or something, you can record yourselves talking through it and just mention the things that are happening. And then that's a great thing to pop into. That's the kind of thing AI is good for helping us with. Take that transcript of that recording, and then actually it can turn it into like a battle report or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. That could work. Yeah. Aye. Could you combine that with a fast forward recording, like a time lapse recording or something like that? You can manage a bit of editing to bring it together, but that could work quite nicely. If you could, I think that could work if you could iterate through it and get a pretty solid set of like turns. And this turn, I did this and he did this. I think that would be, you'd need an intermediary step. I think it'd be quite a lot to ask to say, just make a battle report. But if you've got the turns out first, then it'd be really easy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it would just take a bit of extra narration, wouldn't it? You'd have to make the effort to actually tell the story as you're going along.
Yeah.
Which might be tricky. Yeah, I might try that next time.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. A couple of updates just on the gear, actually. I'll go through them. I might actually get into the social media stuff next time round, because I'd like to give that a proper talk about, actually. And I'm going to play around with that a bit more over the next week, just for that exact, like we've just talked about, like playing with them to actually start scheduling some of the clips. So I might even have more on that next week anyway. So I'll leave that for next time round. But this time round, the DJI gimbal. You said you had one of them, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely do.
How much did you actually use it?
Not very much.
Yeah, me too. The thing, it's like, it's a cool little thing. It's an amazing little gadget. It's such a dream for a geek like both of us, probably. Like this, the idea that you have this thing that can track you around, and it's just a cool little thing. But it's just so unwieldy. And so, like, you feel like a fanny using it basically as well,
Totally.
because it's quite big and you're just so obviously doing something, like recording some content, which is not necessarily always what you want to be doing in while I'm walking around a Buddhist temple or something like that, for example. So I just didn't actually use it much at all. I often had it with me. I had it with me most days in my bag. And I just never found the opportunity to pull it out and like wave it about. So that was a bit of a disappointment, to be honest.
It'd make a really good like fancy selfie stick.
I mean,
or like,
even that, I just found I would just hold my phone up. Like it was just so much of a hassle to pull it out, to mount my phone into it, and then take the picture. Compared to, I guess it's not quite as good holding it out in my arm or whatever. But it was just
I suppose we're not
too much
using
barrier
it
to.
I suppose we're not using it in the way we're meant to, though, because like it's a weird thing to have a gimbal for a smartphone, because a gimbal's like it's a bit of filmmaking gear, right? And I think if you were trying to do like amateur filmmaking on your smartphone, which is very possible to do these days, then I think in that case it would make sense, where you're actually trying to like smoothly follow someone, or track a shot or that kind of thing. I think it would be really good for someone that has a smartphone and does want to get to that sort of level where you've got a subject and you want to, keep it steady, and you want to do the ninja walk thing, and for that it's probably really good. But I think we just geeked out a little bit too hard and didn't consider whether we needed it.
It's overkill. It's overkill exactly for the kinds of stuff that we were filming, which is just general footage of exactly what you can do just by holding your phone up and recording normally.
Totally.
You're totally right. Yeah, filmmaking, or even like more involved video blog type creation, where you get the standard people filming themselves walking along the street, and then they film themselves walking into a restaurant, and then they've got themselves talking to their phone, and there's all these little cutaway shots and stuff like that, which is really cool. But I'm just not making that kind of vlog just now. So yeah.
If you really wanted to record someone's feet and keep it really steady, it'd be great for that, though. So keep it.
Well, it was the idea that it has a stand and you can place it down away from yourself so that you can film yourself doing something without having to hold it, was also quite attractive. But again, I just didn't find the opportunity for it. But yes, maybe I'll be more creative now that we're, I don't know, I'll think of some ways to use it. I think I will use it in the studio a fair bit for like gear reviews, for unboxings, for just like explainers, all that kind of stuff. I think I will use it in the studio here. But yeah, out and about, I didn't find it that useful.
No.
Similar with the Mic Minis, so the DJI Mic Minis as well. I used them more, so I used them a few times, like to record a conversation between me and Kate on the train, in a cafe, even just holding it up to my mouth, like for recording a couple of things. But honestly, by about the second half of the trip, I was just holding my phone up to my mouth whenever I needed to, and it was just so much quicker and easier. And I just found, when it comes down to it, like convenience beats quality generally any day of the week with nearly any context.
What were those voice recordings for? Were they for a podcast or just
podcast episodes? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So like I recorded my journal sort of recordings for the context, for the story, for the text, really. But then I also was recording podcast episodes while we were away as well. So I've already published one episode of that, and I was recording conversations of me and Kate reflecting on like longer 10, 15, 20 minutes, reflecting on the last place we'd been, maybe with the kids as well, but also as we were out at things, I would just grab my phone, turn it upside down and use it like an interviewer mic and ask Alistair something about the thing we'd just seen. So like we'd just been to Todaji Castle or something like that, and I said like, what do you think of those ramparts? What would can you imagine a ninja crawling over those or something? And we just had a quick conversation in context, like with the kind of atmosphere and the people around us and stuff. So so stuff like that. And yes, the DJI Mic Minis were great for that. But again, they weren't so much better that they beat the phone, honestly. Like it was
when it's just a quick thing you want to do, and you need to get the box out, and you need to take the things out of the box, and you've got to clip the thing, and then you probably you've got to like go to Bluetooth and connect it to Bluetooth, and I can totally see that. Yeah.
So again, it's kind of overkill for a lot of the things I was thinking about. But again, there's probably certain situations where they are. In fact, the two-way conversations, they were necessary for that. You can't. Yeah. It's hard to speak for 10 minutes holding a phone between you and making sure it's on the right person. It's not very natural.
And you'll not get the timing right, and you'll end up not catching someone properly. Or,
Absolutely. Yeah. So they were good. They were worth taking. But yeah, definitely you need to know the context. You need to know that you're going to have conversations like that, or there's certain situations you'll need them for. I certainly never used the single Mic Mini attached to the gimbal, to the with the wee, what do you call it, the utility pack that they plug into the bottom of it. That thing, I don't know. It's just like that. Just doesn't seem. I don't know. I'm not sure where people would use that much, honestly.
No. So is it the receiver that's on it, or is it the actual microphone then pointing at you?
Well, the receiver is on the gimbal, and that plugs into your phone, and then the microphone goes on you. So that's fine. Like that's fine. That's a good use. But you can just use the normal receiver that you get with the DJI Mic Mini kit and plug that into the phone as well. The main benefit of the of the little single receiver that goes with the gimbal is the fact that it does the face tracking when you're not using the DJI app.
That's right.
So
yeah.
So yeah,
you've been gone for too long. It's like 5 episodes ago we talked about this.
It was. Yeah. So I think end lesson there is, and I think I mentioned a bit of this on that episode, that I would buy the basic DJI, what even is it called now? I've totally forgotten the actual name of it.
Osmo Mobile.
Osmo Mobile. Is that it? You get the Osmo Mobile 7P, that is it. So the Osmo Mobile 7P I got, but you get the basic 7, which doesn't come with a wee add-on, and it's £50 cheaper. So I would go for the cheaper one and just buy a Mic Mini kit. Like the actual standalone Mic Minis, because then you can use that with anything. That's the trouble with the 7P receiver and the single mic. You can't use it with anything else. Like you can't plug it into your phone without the gimbal. It's powered by the gimbal, so you have to have it with the gimbal. Whereas if you buy the DJI Mic Mini kit with the 2 mics, or even a single and a receiver separately, you can use that with anything. Plug it into your phone, not with a gimbal. Plug it into a camera, like a DSLR. Plug it into a recorder of any sort. Comes with a little 3.5mm cable. So it's just so much more flexible. Even though it costs a touch more, not even that much more.
Yeah. Worth it. Yeah.
So that was a lesson. Cool.
Nice to actually hear about that being used in real life, and I'm glad that you have been equally clueless as me as to how to actually, make it useful.
Yeah, totally. The one day I actually got it out and used it for any length of time was the day we went up to see the monkeys in Shibu Onsen. So there's this area where loads of snow monkeys hang out in these natural hot springs. You go up and have a look at them, and so we were doing a lot of photography there, just trying to capture the monkeys. So I I bit down my embarrassment and just got the thing out and started using it, because I was kind of walking about trying to film the monkeys and stuff. So that was quite good fun.
That's really cool. Yeah, hot springs and monkeys. I am gonna have to get myself over to Japan.
Yeah. Good place. And weirdly affordable as well. The cost of living over there is really low, actually. Yeah, you can live very cheaply if you want to. You can live very expensively if you'd like to, but you can eat cheap as chips. Really, really good food. Pretty cheap accommodation as well. Like we stayed in a capsule hotel one night, and it was £20 for the night. You get your own little capsule, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really good.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought it was.
I would just live on the egg mayonnaise sandwiches if I could from 7-Eleven.
Yeah. So 7-Eleven's great. I love 7-Eleven in Thailand. Give me more 30p toasties, please.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Anyway, this has nothing to do with the show. Okay, cool. Right, anything else you want to cover, Jacob?
Nope, I think that is good for today. Good to have you back, Colin.
Perfect. Yeah, good to be back. Thank you for holding the fort down while I was away.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, thank you out there for listening as well. If you want to support the stuff we do, as always, it would be great if you could check out Alitu. Alitu is our podcast maker app. If you make a podcast, it's the easiest way to make one. It includes call recording, including video and audio. It's got audio editing in there too, so you can edit out all your mistakes, do your audio cleanup, like background noise, leveling, voice EQ, all that stuff to make you sound polished. and you can publish it with the inbuilt hosting as well. So if you want to go and try it out, you get a 7-day free trial over at alitu.com. That's ALITU.com. And what's the discount code, Jacob?
CreatorCraft for 50% off your first month.
Great stuff. That's CreatorCraft for 50% off your first month. Go over to alitu.com. That's ALITU.com. Supports all the work we do here on CreatorCraft, on the podcast host, and on all the other content we put out as well. So if you do want to check it out and use it for your pod, it'd be very much appreciated. All right. Thank you again. We'll see you next time. Talk to you then.
Goodbye.